Formula One never seems to be short on drama, and this time, Max Verstappen finds himself at the center of attention once again. The Dutch driver, currently the reigning champion, faced unexpected consequences from the FIA after using explicit language during a press conference ahead of the Singapore Grand Prix race. Now, Verstappen isn't just unhappy, he's contemplating action against the FIA, and the entire Formula One world is watching closely to see what happens next. But here's where it gets even more intriguing. Max Verstappen's situation has reignited a long-standing comparison with another F1 legend, Ayrton Senna. Both Verstappen and Senna are known for their relentless driving styles, their mastery in difficult conditions, and their unyielding determination on the track. Some experts are even beginning to wonder, are we witnessing the making of a modern-day Senna in Verstappen? Stay tuned as we break down what led to Verstappen's recent clash with the FIA, how it could impact his future in Formula One, and why this story goes beyond just one driver's frustration. Could this be the beginning of a much larger shift in the sport? Let's dive in. Max Verstappen's career has been nothing short of headline-worthy, and his latest controversy continues that trend. Ahead of the Singapore Grand Prix race, the FIA handed him an unusual punishment: community service. This was the result of Verstappen's expletive-filled outburst during a press conference, where he expressed his frustrations in colorful language. As Verstappen prepared for the race weekend, it was clear that he was not happy about the penalty. The incident has stirred conversations throughout the paddock, with Verstappen even discussing the possibility of taking action with other drivers against the FIA's strict measures. The tension surrounding this punishment has led many to draw comparisons between Verstappen and Ayrton Senna, the legendary Brazilian driver who, like Verstappen, was known for his fiery temperament both on and off the track. Much like Senna, Verstappen is admired for his ability to push the limits. From late braking to managing tires better than most, Verstappen's driving style shares many of the same traits that made Senna a motorsport icon. But as with Senna, Verstappen's intense persona has also brought him into conflict with the sport's governing body. The similarities between Max Verstappen and Ayrton Senna go beyond just their racing skills. Both drivers have earned reputations for pushing boundaries, not only on the track, but also in the way they approach the sport. Senna's aggressive driving style, his ability to dominate in wet conditions, and his unshakable confidence under pressure are all characteristics that fans and experts alike are now seeing in Verstappen. One notable comparison is the 1990 Japanese Grand Prix, where Senna, driving for McLaren, was in contention to secure his second world championship. Despite being on pole, the FIA, led by its French president Jean-Marie Balester, placed Senna on the dirtier side of the track, favoring his rival, Alain Prost. This decision led to Senna making a highly controversial move during the race, colliding with Prost, which secured Senna his championship but also sparked outrage. Similarly, Verstappen's interactions with the FIA have been marked by tension. His recent penalty for swearing is just one example of how his fiery personality can cause friction with the governing body, much like Senna's disputes with the FIA during his career. Verstappen's fans admire his boldness, but it's clear that this incident has left a lasting impact on how he views the sport's leadership. Just like Senna, Verstappen seems to be facing a crossroads. Does he continue challenging the status quo, or does he have to adjust his approach to stay in the sport's good graces? As Verstappen reflects on his recent penalty, the question remains whether these moments of conflict will define his legacy or push him to even greater heights in his career. Max Verstappen's penalty, handed down by the FIA just before the Singapore Grand Prix, has added fuel to the fire of his growing frustration with the governing body. Verstappen didn't hold back, expressing his discontent during and after the race weekend. The reigning champion felt the punishment was unnecessary and unfair, especially given the high stakes of the season. He openly admitted that incidents like these could influence his future in Formula One. During a press conference after the qualifying session, Verstappen voiced his anger over how he was treated by the FIA. He explained that these penalties and the increasing restrictions are making it difficult for drivers to be themselves. "If we can't be who we are, then what's the point?" Verstappen said, hinting that he might not stick around in the sport if the rules continue to feel overly restrictive. The comparison with Ayrton Senna grows stronger here. Just like Senna in 1990, who made a bold statement on the track after feeling unfairly treated by the FIA, Verstappen's actions and words suggest that he's not afraid to challenge the establishment. However, This ongoing clash with Formula One's leadership could also signal a deeper issue for Verstappen, whether he wants to continue in a sport where he feels constrained by its rules and bureaucracy. As Verstappen's frustrations mount, other drivers, including rivals like Lewis Hamilton, have shown support for him. The situation is prompting conversations among the drivers about the FIA's current policies, and there's a growing sense that change may be necessary. Verstappen, however, made it clear that while he's focused on his performance for now, the tension with the FIA is something he cannot ignore. While Max Verstappen's frustration with the FIA has been brewing for some time, his recent clash over the Singapore Grand Prix penalty has sparked discussions among his fellow drivers. Even those who have been his fiercest competitors on the track, like Lewis Hamilton, have come to his defense. Hamilton, for one, stated that he wouldn't have accepted such a penalty if he were in Verstappen's shoes, adding that the FIA's response seemed excessive for what was, at its core, a heat-of-the-moment outburst. Alexander Wurz, president of the Grand Prix Drivers Association GPDA, also weighed in, expressing his concern about how such penalties could affect driver morale. Wurz has hinted that the drivers may approach the FIA as a united group to address what many see as unfair and overly strict rulings. It's becoming clear that Verstappen's situation is about more than just a single incident. It's emblematic of a larger divide between the drivers and the sport's governing body. This divide has only grown as more drivers have voiced their opinions on the matter. The sport's gladiators, as they're often referred to, are expected to show their raw emotions and passion both on and off the track. But with the FIA cracking down on driver behavior, many feel that their individuality and personality are being stifled. Verstappen has made it clear that he won't change who he is, even if it means facing more consequences. He firmly believes that drivers should be able to express themselves fully, and that moments of frustration are part of the sport. The tension between the FIA and the drivers could shape the future of Formula One in more ways than one. While Verstappen is focused on maintaining his dominance on the track, this ongoing conflict may continue to influence his decisions about his long-term future in the sport. As Max Verstappen continues to dominate the Formula One circuit, his strained relationship with the FIA looms larger. The recent penalty for his language during the Singapore Grand Prix, coupled with growing frustrations over the sport's restrictions, has led Verstappen to question his long-term commitment to Formula One. He's hinted that these ongoing conflicts could influence his decision about whether to continue racing at the highest level, despite his immense success. "I'm at a point in my career where I don't want to deal with this kind of stuff all the time," Verstappen said, reflecting on his future. "Winning races and championships is great, but you also want to enjoy what you do. If it becomes more about dealing with unnecessary things, then what's the point?" These comments have left many fans and analysts wondering if Formula One could lose one of its brightest stars if the tension with the FIA continues to escalate. Verstappen's situation has also sparked a broader conversation about how the sport's governing body handles driver behavior and what changes might be needed to ensure that drivers feel respected and able to perform at their best. For now, Verstappen remains focused on his performance on the track, but it's clear that the controversy surrounding his penalty has struck a nerve. As the season progresses, all eyes will be on whether the FIA takes any steps to address the concerns raised by Verstappen and his fellow drivers, and whether these ongoing issues will impact the reigning champion's future in the sport. As the tension between Max Verstappen and the FIA continues to build, the larger question remains: how will Formula One navigate this growing divide? Verstappen is not just any driver, he's the face of a new generation of racers, pushing the limits both on and off the track. Losing him or driving him to a breaking point could have massive implications, not just for Red Bull Racing, but for the entire sport. The FIA, for its part, has maintained that rules are rules, and every driver is expected to follow them. But there's no denying that Verstappen's outburst and his punishment have become a flashpoint. The governing body faces increasing pressure not only from Verstappen but also from other drivers and teams who feel that their individuality is being stifled under overly strict regulations. As the season progresses and Verstappen contemplates his future, the spotlight will undoubtedly shift to how the FIA responds. Will they soften their stance to retain one of their biggest stars, or will they continue to enforce their regulations without room for flexibility? At the same time, Verstappen must decide how much longer he's willing to put up with what he sees as unnecessary distractions from what really matters: racing. While he's hinted that he'll use the upcoming break to evaluate his future, one thing is certain: his decision could mark a turning point in Formula One. The championship continues, but the question on everyone's mind is, what will be the final straw for Verstappen? Will he continue to dominate the sport or walk away from it all? The next few months could define not just Verstappen's career but also the future direction of Formula One. As Max Verstappen weighs his future in Formula One, one thing remains clear: his legacy in the sport is already monumental. With multiple world championships under his belt and a reputation for being one of the most aggressive and talented drivers on the grid, Verstappen has solidified his place among the greats of motorsport. However, the question remains: how will this ongoing tension with the FIA shape his future legacy? If Verstappen continues to clash with the governing body, it could lead to a significant shift in how drivers are treated, especially when it comes to issues of individuality and expression. Verstappen's open defiance, his willingness to speak out against what he sees as unfair treatment, has earned him admiration from fans and fellow drivers alike. However, it also puts him in a position where any future conflict with the FIA could result in even harsher consequences. Formula One has long been a sport where passion, aggression, and raw emotion have defined its greatest moments, but Verstappen's situation highlights the fine line between maintaining order and allowing drivers the freedom to be themselves. If the FIA chooses to ignore Verstappen's frustrations, it risks alienating not just him, but an entire generation of younger drivers who admire his style. For Verstappen, the decision is not just about the rules, it's about whether Formula One is still the sport he fell in love with. The battles on the track are what keep him motivated, but the increasing off-track distractions could push him to explore other avenues, potentially even moving to other forms of motorsport, where the freedom he seeks is more readily available. Regardless of what happens, Verstappen's legacy will forever be tied to this moment. Whether he chooses to stay and fight within the system or walks away in protest, his influence on Formula One will be felt for years to come. Fans and experts alike will be watching closely to see how the sport, and Verstappen himself, navigate this pivotal moment.